is just a simple wave border pattern. When I say simple, it's actually one of the most difficult ones to get right, and I'll tell you why when we go through. This is the unglazed ceramic that I'm going to use. Really easy to work with. I love it. I don't know why it's not more popular. So let's get the glue and let's start. Obviously that is just trying to get the bloody little pot out. I'm just using ordinary PVA. Right, let's have a look. Now, easiest way is just to start with long lines. So I'm going to start up here and I'm just going to... You draw your line the length that you feel comfortable with. So now you look at the angle, then you trim it, and you've got to try and envisage the rest of the mosaic out here. So you know, it could be something like that. Let's just, if I do this, move this up slightly there, you can see you've got something like that. You've got another pattern underneath. That helps because it allows you to sort of see the rest of it and you're not just sort of blocking off. You're not just stopping off there. So there, I'm going to need a keystone. Now, I'm using these mini nippers. I have got the big ones there, but these work fine with this. Now, I'm going a little bit over the pattern. It's not a problem. Not a problem. Okay, I've gone a bit excessive with that. Remember, you set it, you adjust it, you leave it. If you touch it more than twice, you're fiddling. So I better make sure I don't touch any of these. And what I need to do is just break up that uniformity. I don't want them sort of like really rigid. Something it's a phrase, soften the lines, that I use a lot when we were doing the Villa Ventorum commission, because we were working off these really sort of rigid patterns. Not ideal, and the thing was to just angle things slightly, even though we were using hand cut material. But it was just trying to take that sort of rigidity out of it where you've got a very tight pattern there. Okay, well, that'll do. There's some more. Like I say, with these lines, you want to just try not to get them really, just get that little bit. You're going to end up with quite sort of not stiff, but unnatural lines. Now, do I need a keystone there? If I open that up, can I open it up enough that it's not... Yeah, that'll do. I'll put one there though. Now I'm starting to look for the point where we're going to have two lines coming together. Okay, and you can see there, that's about acceptable, but I need to get a keystone in there. Let's put a bit more. So I'm really just sort of, I want to go up to this point here. The keystone. Do what I'm actually going to say I'm going to do. Let me just... I'm on my laptop here as well. Let's just see. Okay, so now I'm sort of looking at this at an angle. You're right over, so you might see more. So in your case, you might see the tesserae open up a little bit more than you would do. If I move my head too far forward, I'm going to knock the ruddy phone, and it took me long enough to set this up. Okay, so now thinking, two lines. Yeah, you could sort of put some there, that might help, but And a lot of these things, these methods, you've got to just go with it. You've got to find your own way. And how do you find your own way? You're going to cock it up. You've got to make mistakes. Now, it's going to make my life easier to do that. But just sort of looking at this now, we're definitely going into a keystone there. Again, thinking of the distance. Now I need this curve. I've got to maintain that curve the whole way. I'm put that one there and then working back because I don't want to get round here and have a little gap there. So let's have a look. And we really want to watch the size. Now, if you look at that, that's sort of about what I'm going to have to trim about a quarter off of each one, and that's good. That's okay. That sort of works. So very, very slightly get the now that's a bit so. What can I do? Take this one down. You don't want a little sort of scrappy area when you've got all these squares there. So see if we can just, no, triangle there. Let's get this up on the bit of glue. It's always handy. It's PVA glue, does the job. The hell did I do that? Okay, that is PVA glue. You shut up. There you go. Right. That's not got too much of a curve on it. There you go. I'm saying don't touch it more than twice. That'll do. Have I got a curve? Is it doing on there? Yep, fine. So now what I'm going to do from here is I'm just going to pick a random point and start there because we are setting borderline. So let's get the card. Number 6. This is a borderline we're using. So size, we're making sure that I haven't gone and ended up with too small a piece on there. Spacing you just sort out however you want. What's your maximum, what's your minimum there. And really on this one, we're looking at the keystone shape. So use a keystone where you need to, not just because you've got a curve. If you can just open them up a little bit, that's acceptable amount, then that's fine. So let's start. Let's just pop that in there. Okay, we're going to get off and let's get these. Remember keystones. Now I'm moving this up really tight because offset. Okay, I want to try and do that as much as I can. We are, the examples that you do are going to be neater than theirs. It's just the way it is. And it's just, we are neat freaks compared to the Romans. Now look at this here. I'm going to have to fill that gap. So what you don't want to do is sort of end up with something like that, where you've got a gap and you're going to have to try and cut some sort of fragment for it. So it's better to just open it up. Oh, that definitely opened it up. Right there. There. Get as much of a gap as you can. I've gone over the pattern a little bit there, but that doesn't matter. Now, let's look at this. Again, if we've got the pattern. Right. Got to check you can still see it. Okay, just about there. You get the idea of this. So down here, because I've got this pattern here, because I've got that, I can think, well, that's there. So put it up to it and I can get a fairly good idea. There's your line. See, that's still in shot. Now, you look at what I get here. I'll put that right down there. So I need... It's there. Okay, that'll do. Now, we're coming around here. So all I'm thinking of here is just 2 lines going down to about there. I'm not even thinking about this. I'll do that later. I'll think about it later. Just set your target. Set going to a certain point. Just think about that, because you've got a lot of mosaic. You've got a lot of, even a small one like this, you've got a lot of tesseract cuts. So what I'm going to do is just bring that just past to offset it. See, now I'm going, you can see there I've still got I'm inside the pattern, don't matter. Go for the image of the mosaic that's in your head. There. Okay, look again. It's a bit of timing. Okay, so now I've got 2. If I had 2.5, that might be more difficult. That's actually not too bad. What I will do is just now look at that. And what you're doing is it's a really, really, really subtle keystone. And sometimes you just got to jam the bloody things in. There you go. Right, now let's have a look at this. This is the curve. Now, this is going to come round there. This line here is going to come round there. This is going to go to there. Let's do that one first. Let's have a think. So I can there. Now, do I run this down there and then have a smaller piece, or can I just trim a small bit off of there? Maybe just there. Now, is that gap too big? Nah, that'll do. Now I've got this point here. That's going to cause a problem. I haven't done this one for ages, but we'll just deal with it when we get to it there. Okay, so let's take a look. Just sort of think of what you do. Think you want that curve. Don't overanalyze it too much. Get going. I'm gonna make a very subtle keystone. Look at it. There. Now I need to come around. Now, sometimes you can get areas like this where the angle is too tight. You can't. You'd have about 3 keystones in there. So this is the time where you might use a triangle cut. But let's take a look. No, that is round. Let's get in another keystone. Cutting over here. These small ones are fine. For this unglazed ceramic, I doubt they'd work for anything else. I shouldn't lean on the table, vibrating the... Right, so I've got to make sure that we're not leaving a gap there. Now, what I don't want is put that there and then get some teeny little triangle. Don't want that. The contrast is too much. So what you want to do, you can put the triangle in first. So you can cut the triangle, if I can get it out of the nippers. Then, oh, so is that? Yeah, it's not. Again, you. Will that do? Yeah, that'll do. Does it do? Does it do the job? Does it show what you want to show? Okay. Now we're going to have another line across here. So let's just move that up a little bit. I should have drawn it in really, but what the hell. Now, there. Right. Offset. Remember this? Number 5. Now again, I'm just going to run out to the. What I'm going to do is it's very sort of tempting. People do it a lot that they just do that. Oh yeah, great. Like in the way here, you haven't got those full ones. Just so many of these things are just sort of being aware of rather than anything else. Try not to be very regimented in what you do. And again, the same as we were getting somewhere around here, watch that gap. You see, like here, got to try and leave as big a gap as possible for the triangle. Same here. I didn't bring my tweezers, and I've got that tiny little bit in there, and that's going to be a real pain. Okay, right. Well, we've got what we got. We got what we got. Okay, and normally, if this were the natural end of a line, then you would put a full size one here, but it isn't. So this is sort of like an end. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to have a really tiny bit. Size. Sometimes it's not the that you can have ones that are within your size limits, but it's just the contrast between the two. So again, here we go. This there. Now thinking about this gap, just very slightly altered, made it a little bit wonky. That's a technical term. There. There. Now what we got there. I'm going to put this one here so we get a larger one on the edge. Could be a bit bigger. We'd do it. So you're trying to give this impression of a continuous line there. Now they are getting quite so. The border lines. Now the filling in, and all I'm going to do with this is filling in with horizontal lines. Now you can start here or you can start there, depends on your judgment. I would tend to get some of these triangles in here. I'm setting horizontal lines. Don't start doing your triangle and find your lines are coming out here. Borderline. Filling in. This is, you can fill in however you want, but just try forgotten what I was going to say there. Okay. Normally you'd wait until these are so. About as small as I want to go. Okay, now look here. This Ooh, I just need to trim just a tiny bit off of there. And a tiny bit off of there. No. That'll do, because I'm not looking at this, I'm not trying to follow this line. I'm trying to follow that horizontal line. So let's do here. Now, these are not quite triangles for there. One. Get another one. Two. So I think there. Now, putting these ones in first, because it's easier to cut a small square than it is to cut a small triangle. So if I started here and then went all the way across, then I might find it a small triangle gap that I've got to fill. But now I've taken out both of those. Let's have a look. And good thing, just hold it, whatever you're cutting, whether it's a new shape, an irregular shape, or a smaller square, just hold it up and have a look. Hold it against the gap. Okay, now what I want to do is have complete lines. I don't want to get down the bottom and end up with a sort of line like that sort of gap in there. Time it so I've got that bit of tiny bit in there, and I know if I try and oik it out my fingers, no. Oh. Okay, let's just shove something on the top of it. Okay, so I want as big a triangle as I can in there. Hold it up. Okay, there. That's about it. That's about the limit of what I'd want. Trim that bit off. Could have been a bit better, but what the hell. Okay. Offset. Now here, going to use, right, let's see what we've got. So what I'm going to do is trim down both lines. Rather than another full one, we're going to be left with a half space. I'm going to trim both these lines down. So let's get the glue down. Don't ever do this where you glue a bit of the and then stick it down. Then you glue another one and stick it down. It's a waste of time. Okay, you'll spend too long and you'll over analyze things. So look there, got a triangle. Let's get that in. Now we can just judge the size. Let's see there. Two. Nope. Two. Okay, we go. Now, trim off the top. Okay, easier to cut a square smaller than it is to cut a triangle smaller. Get your triangles in first. Could have had another one, better one. That doesn't matter. It's just when you think you've got 8 to 10,000 in a square meter, you can't get too precious about them. just taking a bit off. This is going to be, oh, it's a pain in the ass. That's, okay, now how much of a small, it's not too bad. I'm going to see out and just push all these, I've got gaps here, but I'm just going to ram those up because I've got a small space. But as I say, this is, you can see the continuation of it there, so that's not too bad, but make it as big as you possibly can. Worst thing is that I see, and it's something I see a lot, is people will have all these little fragments and they'll, oh, look, I can use that. Nobody's going to notice it. Once the mosaic is grouted, nobody's going to notice it. So, God, running out. Okay, and when you're filling gaps like this, spacing wise, just jam them in. You want as big a tesseract as you can in there, bigger one as possible. Don't fanny around with it. Okay, there. Go large. So I always say when you get into areas like this, go large. Right. Okay, there. If in doubt, smack it in. Okay, so we've got that there. What I'm going to do is just, so, all right, let's just do this bit. Same again. I need to be thinking of that line as it continues. So let's put it up here. We've got, it's going to be a bit tricky. Chances are I think I would just carry on with these horizontal lines, because you could say that you're going to have to do something that should be something like that. Should we try? Let's line this right up. What do you think? Now, to be really, really proper. Okay, let's have a go. Get one here. Sorry, I've got these notifications coming in. So popular. Now, that is over. You don't really need to do this. You tend to be, you just put them across there, but find the easiest part that you can think of. Just to get one in. Just get your a sort of focal point, as it were. Now, if you look, that's about the same. Where that triangle is going to be about the same there. So let's carry on with that. Bit of keystone there. Now this is a funny, weird sort of shape. If you get that weird shape bit, then start with your square. Think of that as, for me, it's all going through the shapes. I haven't got a card with the shapes on, no. Going through the shapes. Now, I think is that square, triangle, keystone. Now, normally that's going to be a keystone there. If we were doing the complete pattern, that would be a keystone there. So I cut a keystone. Don't try to just cut whatever that random space is there. Look at that. So I've got the keystone. Now I trim it. Not quite enough. Just need a little bit more. There, so you sort of got. Yeah, and you've got the same again there. I know I'm sort of not saying these little fragments, but if we're following the line as if this had been chopped out, then this is what it's going to be. That'll do. No, it won't. Try to get your head on. Think. Okay, let's go back and let us keystone. See, what did I do there? I picked up a random piece or a sort of triangle piece. I looked to fill what essentially is a triangle shaped gap, when I should have done what I said about 20 seconds before that. Cut the shape that you think would have been there if you were continuing the piece, then shape that. It's okay, I've only been doing this over 20 years, so it takes me a little while to remember what the hell I should be doing. And then just try it, and damn if it didn't fit, cut another one. Okay, this just take that. So cut the shape that would be there if you were continuing the whole thing. Then trim it to fit the gap. And it sort of fits the gap, yeah. Okay, let's up to the top. Let's get the big triangle in now. This is a square cut in half. So you can see that's just not quite going to do it. Because remember, we want horizontal lines here. So what you can do, it's like a capstone on a pyramid, the top of a pyramid. So you have this, which is half of one of these. Then you just, what you do is you trim it. Can you see that pyramid shape? Right, okay, reasonable enough size. That'll do. That'll do. Now we're going to have two on here. Now, let's say you hear me say you don't do half a keystone. By half a keystone, I mean that shape. Can you see that easily there, where you've just trimmed off half? Because on a curved line, it sort of gives the impression of the line, the flow of the line going one way or the other. But here, it works because you're filling in. Now I just have space for two tesserae there, so one's like this, other one going to be the same. Much we got. That'll do. The phrase "can I get away with it" goes through my head a lot. Can I get away with it? Is the line straight enough? Can I get away with it? Is the line curved enough? If it is, you're in the air. Okay, let's just put one more line in here that we're doing. It's sort of like, yeah, it sort of works. Okay. Get the end. Now, what I might do is just trim that down a bit more, looking at the space we've got. Let's put that one here. Let's get that. Okay, let's see what we've got now. We've got, how much do you reckon? 2, 3, 1. Oh, you see, this is what you want to avoid. You see that? That's 2 and a bit lines, 2.5 lines. You couldn't jam them up and get, you know, much more space. So one of these has got to go down, or two of the lines have got to go down. It's better to have sort of just over or just under the full width lines. Easy way to work it out is just put the glue down and then figure it out as you go along. The reason I put them down that time is to show you. What you don't want to do is sort of like turn it up and there and then put different shapes in dry or anything like that. You just want to get the stuff down, and you've got to try, and it's developing your eye, really. And the only way to develop your eye is to make mistakes with it, to get it wrong. Okay, here we go. Trim off a bit of the corner. There, tightening and loosening. This is where you sort of jam some bits up together. Right there, you can see that. But where you just, so what I can do is just angle them slightly, and you get away with it there. Now, these ones here, let's take a look and just figure out how much we got to lose off of each. I don't like this. Now, when you have a long, thin gap, don't fill it with rectangles. You fill it with smaller tesserae. In this instance, jamming it in. Because rectangles, a line of rectangles can draw in the eye. Now, let's have a look. That's going to be there. That's just... The only problem with these small ones is they do get caught up a bit. There. Take a look. There you see I'm pushing and pulling and just jamming big a bit in as possible. Ideally, you won't get this once your eye's developed, and I'll be honest now, it's been a while since I've been sitting down and doing this. Mostly I'm supervising others doing it. Let's get that triangle in, and I'm going to trim the bottom of the triangle rather than taking the point off the top. Bit rough, but what the hell. Okay, oh, that's a bugger, isn't it? Now look, let's get this one right out there. How the mosaic you're working on turns out is not as important as how the next one works out with what you learned from that one. Okay, no, that wasn't high enough. Well, that is, tell you what, in there, this is an artificial situation, because it's that you've got this, the end of the board, so it's sort of like as if it were cut off. This is why it's always a bit, you know. Now, what I'd do with this, I've just got to sharpen it, a sort of grinding stone. I'll just wait until these are really dry, and then I'd sharpen down. Just use a stone and trim them off. Okay, let's have a look. Let's see. Oh, a little bit off shot there. Okay, so we got our size. We're trying not to have too many small pieces. Spacings we figured out, and that's been a bit fluid with that because we've needed to. I've jammed them in. But then you've got the back to your ordinary spacing, plus on the curves, I've had to decide how far is an acceptable space on this. How far am I happy for it to go? Keystones, we see we got keystones. Keystones up on here. These are not keystones here. These are just filling in. Line transition, not really. No, there isn't on this one. Offset, so you can see it's important there with this offsetting. There, you will get some areas that line up, but as long as you offset them when you notice, because sometimes it takes about 6 tesserae on over another line where you are lining them all up before you actually notice it. You look at original Roman mosaics and you will see there are examples of them lining up, of not offsetting there, and then they offset, and it's usually sort of blocks of about 6 or 7 there. So all these allow us to create shapes. With shapes we need borderline, and so essentially on here the borderline is these lines. So you see these 2 lines coming up here. There's your borderline, there's your filling in. Okay, I hope you got something out of that. I'll be doing more of these, and if you've got any particular requests, let me know in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks very much for your time. See you later. Right, now I have to figure out how the hell I turn this off. Oh, what do you do? Jesus Christ. Okay, I'll hit the X one up here. Yay.